kind enough to join us once again, our favorite from the NBA Finals, in between games 2 and 3. It's Brian Windhorst back here on the Rich Eisen Show from ESPN. Good to see you, Brian.
Good morning, Rich.
So let's just jump right into the story that's certainly lighting up Los Angeles right here. What is your reporting on what happened between Dan Hurley and the Lakers, Brian?
I mean, he just preferred to stay at UConn. I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't know how else to say it. My thing is, I don't think that the Lakers. When you talk to people that know Dan Hurley, they will say this wasn't about money. And I don't know Dan Hurley, so I'll just say that the Lakers needed it to be about money. They needed money to enter the equation, and the Lakers offer, in my opinion, and other people who I've talked to's opinion, didn't get it done. And like even if they'd offered him, a lot more, he might not have taken it because it's a really hard job. It's a really hard time to take the job. The timing of where the Lakers are right now, it's not ideal. When you're in an ideal job that you're in, that has a factor in it. This is not a vacuum. He's dealing with a whole set of circumstances about staying. But I was surprised at the Lakers' offer, especially considering they've lost top quality head coaches with sort of getting outbid in the past. And so I was surprised. And I only Dan can answer how much of an issue that was. But I think as the Lakers walk away from this, they may need to wonder whether they needed to go further there.
Yeah, as always, it's rare for me to ask another person with a straight face, is 6 years, $70 million a little light? But
it was actually.
That's right. That's what it felt like. If you're looking at the reports of what Kerr's paid and what Pop is paid and Spoelstra's paid, and that Dan Hurley loves where he is, has an opportunity to three-peat, become the first since John Wooden. You've heard him talk publicly, and honestly about what his
used to live in Connecticut. You used to live in Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
When you moved to Los Angeles, did you receive a significant increase compensation-wise?
From your current employer? Is that what you're saying?
Well, whatever.
Absolutely.
You don't.
No,
okay.
I did, and I also liked seeing the ocean, and I liked seeing the sun, and I liked
see the ocean not too far from Connecticut. So
that's true.
I can take you.
Okay.
Let me just break this down, because I got people telling me this wasn't about money, and so here's what I'm going to say.
Sure.
So he makes $5 million a year. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He got offered $8 million a year. Woj said this, and I've also heard this from people, that he got offered 8. 8 was on the table before this Lakers offer. He didn't like 8. You know how I know he didn't like 8? Because he didn't take the contract. He didn't sign it. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so now we've got the governor of Connecticut, Ned Lamont, I believe is his name.
Yes.
And I know that the governor doesn't decide what people get paid at the university. I understand that. But the governor of Connecticut comes out there and says he will be the highest we're going to get him to be the highest paid basketball coach in the country. Okay, he said that. The highest paid basketball coach is Bill Self. He makes about 10.5. So, okay, maybe they don't get him to 10.55 or whatever, but let's say they get him to 10. That's 10 in Connecticut. He now knows he's probably going to, I'm sure that wasn't relayed after the decision was made on the Lakers. I'm sure he had a pretty good idea. So the Lakers are offering 11 and change, and he can get 10 in Connecticut. So it's not you're right. It isn't about money, because the money's equal. 10 in fact, I would say 10 in Connecticut is higher than 11.5 in LA.
Oh, sure.
And so I just didn't think the Lakers made an offer that was financially, at least, because I can tell you the basketball part is tough. There's no doubt that the better basketball job is UConn.
Wow.
He's got 2 titles. He's got a top 5 roster coming back. Yes, going forward, there's NIL and all that stuff, but he's in a supreme position. In LA, it was going to be really hard. It's impossible to handicap next NBA season. This season is not over yet. Mm-hmm. The Lakers have a summer of transactions, but looking at the lay of the land, if the Lakers avoid the play-in next year, sitting where we are now, they will have done a good job. They will have done a good job if they get into the top 6. And you're talking about a guy who would come in potentially with enormous expectations in that landscape. So the basketball decision was tough, really tough. And you can say, well, you may want to think about it past LeBron, into the next iteration where he would have a chance to build the culture and build the program. Yeah, of course, for sure. That's what every coach brings in. But the short-term basketball, it's not comparable. The short-term basketball is UConn, unquestioned. Then you bring in the money. The money sounds like UConn. Sounds like UConn's there. So where are we at? The being able to see the ocean, being able to say you're coach of the Lakers. Well, being able to say you're coach of UConn's pretty good, especially if you're born and raised in the Northeast. So in all honesty, when you look at it like that, and there's probably a bunch of other factors that I don't know or will never know, but
Right.
like just on the surface, it's not hard to see why he said no, frankly.
So then, certainly if the money wound up, as you said, being equal and cost of living and taxes and anything like that, obviously could even tip it into the direction of UConn. And, the Lakers are not rubes. They also have to understand that this is an East Coast guy. His wife, he said he turned down Kentucky because Rhode Island was too far from New Jersey for he and his family and his wife, where they have tons of
Rich, they needed
folks.
to offer $100 million.
That's what I'm saying. So why not?
Yes.
Why don't the Lakers do that? It's not like what's the sense?
I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. But look, and here's the thing: the Lakers are almost never desperate. Okay, we should never lay in the bed at night and go, "Oh man, I'm going to say a prayer for the poor Los Angeles Lakers." The Lakers are not desperate. In 2019, they wanted to hire Ty Lue. They lowballed him. He said, let me tell you something about that. Mm-hmm. Ty Lue remained an assistant coach as opposed to taking the Laker job in 2019. Okay. This wasn't 2001. He was like, I would rather remain as an assistant than be the Laker head coach. By the way, the Lakers won the championship the next year. Monty Williams was being offered a job by Robert Sarver and Jeannie Buss. There is probably not a bigger spread that exists in the terms of Q rating in the NBA of an owner of Robert Sarver and Jeannie Buss. And Monty Williams took the Suns job because they paid him a ton more. Okay. And it was a different set of circumstances. They hired at least their third choice in Frank Vogel, but they got Anthony Davis and they won the championship. So because Anthony Davis said, I only want to be a Laker, because that's the thing the Lakers have. Lakers have this incredible brand in one of the greatest cities in the world. And they're going to have that brand, and they're going to still be playing in one of the greatest cities in the world for the rest of our lives. So, they're not desperate. This is a setback. They didn't get the two coaches they wanted a couple years ago. They won the title. So, maybe they think, why should we pay $100 million when a couple years ago we hired our third choice, we fixed our roster, and we won the title? So let's focus on fixing our roster, and we'll hire our third choice if that's what it takes. Seriously, the Lakers have a little bit of egg on their face today because, their number one choice very publicly said no. All right, so it was a bad day, a bad week. They'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Brian Windhorst here on the Rich Eisen Show. Where do the Lakers go from here now? What is plan B?
Don't know. So, the guy that they've had the most conversation with, as far as I'm aware,
yes,
is James Borrego. Now, I don't have Rob Pelinka's date book. I don't know who he's talked to. Someday maybe I'll find out. But Borrego is in Cleveland right now. He may have the Cavs. He may have an offer to coach the Cavs within the next 48, 72 hours. I don't know. Maybe they'll offer Kenny Atkinson, who's also coming in this week. But if you're the Lakers, you're sort of the guy that you spent the most time with is Borrego, and he's in another city, potentially about to get another job. So if you really wanted James Borrego, you better have made the offer before midnight last night. And as far as I know, Borrego's at that interview. So, you can deduce whatever you want from there. I know everybody's talked about JJ Redick, who's my colleague, who I have immense amount of respect for. On a personal level, I hope JJ gets what he wants. And if he wants the Lakers job, go get it, buddy. Best of luck to you. But I don't think JJ's done a formal interview like Borrego and Dan Hurley have. So, we'll see. The other candidate that they've that they've talked to that I know about. There could be 35 candidates I don't know about. I'm never going to sit here and pretend like I know it all. Is Sam Cassell. Cassell is coaching the Celtics right now. He's helping, Joe Mazzulla run practice today to try to win another ring. So, Lakers have some guys who are busy, who are on their list, and the draft is 2 weeks from tomorrow.
And before we get to the finals, Brian, last question on this is, what is going to be the first order or orders of business for the new Lakers head coach?
Well, I think you have to have a vision about how you want to play, but the big challenges for this Laker organization are the two guys with player options. One, obviously, being LeBron James. The belief / expectation is that he is going to opt out of that player contract or that player option and become a free agent, more to renegotiate and give himself a better terms, which is totally fine. But when you've got an unrestricted free agent, you can never 100% say everything's going to be fine. It would be a mistake for the Lakers not to want to re-recruit LeBron. So that new coach is going to have some discussions about LeBron, about what he wants the team to look like. That's going to be at the top of the list. And then D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell has a player option for $18 million. This is a real conundrum. I could probably spend an hour talking about D'Angelo Russell's conundrum. I know that your audience probably wouldn't enjoy that, but if he opts into his contract, he's very likely to be traded. If he opts out of his contract, the Lakers have suddenly cleared $18 million off their books, which would give them the opportunity to potentially spend some money, their mid-level exception, which is $12 million, and they could go out into the marketplace and find another player. But they're also having a player who averaged 17 points and shot 40% from three-point range become a free agent on them, and they may need to seriously consider re-signing him if they can't replace him. And so those are big, important front office decisions. And you have a draft pick at 17, and you have tradable pieces on your roster that you're still going to look to upgrade. So I would say that, the Lakers have 99 problems, and the head coach isn't number one. And by the way, their roster is in a much better place than it was in 2019 when they hired Frank Vogel. They've got a lot going for them. It's just that Rob Pelinka's got some big, tough decisions to make to try to make this team better this summer.
Brian Windhorst here on the Rich Eisen Show. The general sense of the state of the NBA Finals is what through 2 games?
Boston is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
I continue to be, now that we have ESPN Bet, we're getting some great data because they're our partner about where the money is coming in. Maybe this data was always available and I just wasn't getting it as I am now, but I'm getting incredible data about how the betting markets go. And I am mystified. I will never bet on any of these games because the way I see the league and the way the bettors see the league is so different. For example, I believe about 90% of the money at ESPN Bet came in on the Mavericks in this series. And I know that you're getting a good number on it because the Mavericks were an underdog and there hasn't been a Western Conference underdog since 2013. And I'm sorry, I think the Celtics were far and away the best team in the league since October. And I was just stunned that 90% of the money came in on the Mavericks. The other night, I think 84% of the money came in on the over per ESPN Bet. And again, there's a lot of other sportsbooks out there. I have the ESPN Bet numbers. And I'm like, really? You guys watched game 1 and thought this was going to be a score fest? So I'm not surprised at all that Boston's up 2-0. I am surprised / disappointed that Dallas isn't playing better. Boston is causing Dallas a lot of problems, some of which are going to be hard to solve, but Dallas is playing very poorly. They are not putting their best foot forward. So what I'd like to see as somebody who enjoys high quality basketball and competitive series is I'd love to see Dallas at least play to their level. I covered the Western Conference Finals. I thought they played brilliantly in most of those games against the Wolves. And I'd like to see that team play at least once starting tomorrow night to get a better series.
Well, it's just tough to envision how the Mavs win 4 out of the last 5 games of this series, Brian, when Porzingis is coming off the bench And Jrue Holiday may be the MVP of the team right now, you know, and you got Tatum and Brown and White and the rest of this team doing what the Celtics can do best. And so I guess my question for you is what are the problems that they are causing the Mavericks to make them look this way that you think might be the easiest to solve?
One of the classic mistakes that gets made when looking at playoff series is to assume that things that are happening will continue to happen.
Right.
By the way, a lot of times they do, but that's the thing. And veteran coaches will tell you that assuming that game to game there's going to be continuity, it's just not true. It just ain't true. I mean, it does happen, of course, but not reliably. So number one, I can't reliably say that the Celtics are going to have the type of play that they've gotten from all of their players, consistently. The other thing, the big thing that we're going to find out today, I'm sure the Celtics will try to obfuscate as much as they can, is the health of Porzingis. He came up lame, in game 2. He had to be pulled out of the game. They called timeout to get him off the floor. They were blowing their lead partially because he couldn't walk. So let's see where he is. Let's see what he looks like. That's a factor. But one of the big giant things, if I can be really basic,
please,
is that the Mavericks cannot generate open shots. And I'll just use a couple of very basic stats that you don't have to be an X's and O's genius to follow. Because I say that not because of you, Rich. I say that because of me.
It's okay.
So in the playoffs coming into the series, the Mavericks were making 5 corner threes a game. Okay. That's a huge weapon in their offense. That's the release valve for Luka and Kyrie. Sometimes it's Kyrie making those threes, but it's a release valve. It's their curveball to the fastball. They have attempted 8 in 2 games. Okay, I'm gonna say that again. They average 5 a game. They've attempted 8. The Celtics are just like, yeah, we're cutting that off. We're not even gonna let you shoot them. Coming into the series, Mavericks, 57 lob dunks in the playoffs. First 2 games, 2. And that 57 is a misleading number because there's a whole bunch of lobs that resulted in fouls where they got a lob and the guy got fouled and the guy got to the line. It doesn't count as a lob dunk, but it's a functionally the same thing. So what's happening is that the Celtics are like, we feel good enough about our defense that we're going to play Luka and Kyrie straight up. They did defend Luka a little bit more aggressively in the second half when he was cooking them in the first half in game 2. They brought a little bit more double teams than they did. So maybe that's an indication of things to come. But basically they're playing the 2 of those guys straight up. They're willing to accept the way they're playing. They love the matchup with Kyrie. They're doing a great job making life tough on Kyrie, and they're sticking to their players. They're like, we're not going to let you open in the corner for a 3. We're not going to, sink all these guys to protect the rim. We're going to rely on our defense straight up. That's why they're an awesome team, because they can put 5 guys out there that they all trust and all trust who they can defend. So that's a big problem for Dallas, and Dallas has got to solve that. Dallas has got to reopen the other options in their offense starting tomorrow night. And it starts, by the way, with Kyrie just making some shots. Kyrie has gotten good looks that he's just flat out missed. And 2 games doesn't make a series, doesn't make a season. It was just 3 years ago, that we saw Phoenix go up 2-0 against the Bucks, and the Bucks win 4 straight. Now, I think Boston is extremely strong. I do not foresee that happening. But one of the things that happened in that series was Giannis just got stronger and stronger and started to dominate. He was the best player in the series. Dallas has the best player in the series. So I would favor Boston heavily at this point, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's over. I've seen too much to be able to say that.
Yep, I'm with you. And I'm wondering what the Nuggets are thinking right now, watching this, right? Just sitting here thinking if they had only taken care of Game 7, I know there's a lot of ifs and buts and candies and nuts,
Well, they were a team. They were maybe the only team all year that solved Boston. They were 2-0 against them. Now 2 games, again, doesn't make anything. But right. I think the Nuggets felt good about how they matched up with them.
I bet. Brian, thanks for the time. Honestly,
thanks,
I truly love our chats, and I greatly appreciate you giving your time to this program. So
have a good day.
You right back at you. That's Brian Windhorst, everybody, joining us at Windhorst ESPN. That's a must follow. And then, of course, his podcast, The Hoop Collective, and so much more with Brian Windhorst right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.